Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to BlackUSA.News, and it's all Terence's fault. All right, good morning, good morning. Terence, how you doing?
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Thank you so much, Johnny, for inviting me over.
Okay, now you asked for this show. Now, what is it that you have for the people?
Man, why you gonna put me right in? You normally save the big hitter for like the second or third round. You know, you gotta let somebody time to pump first.
How many people can drive a car at one time? See, Lisa Phillips, you're not the only one with ADD.
Hey,
this guy can't sit still.
Yeah. Hey, here we go. That's better. All right. Hey, good morning, everybody. Terence Dickson, Terra Cafe. A lot of people know me as Chef T, but also during this COVID, I've been also renamed Chef T, but with Terra Loft Consulting. We've been out here banging, you know, from day one and guess what? Our COVID started, 400 years ago, the pivot and the whole joint, it did. So anybody's been in Black business, and especially in Baltimore City, you already know the challenges that you've had to deal with. So when this COVID came, you know, I thought it was going to be good for everybody because they said some things that they're still working on making right. They said that they were going to make it fair for everybody. They said that everybody was essential. They said that we were all going to be on the same plane, you know, the same level field. And we already know, we've seen the news, we've seen the tragedies, and America is still America. Okay. So what we did was we got in action and we started helping businesses. And we created Terra Loft Consulting. It's not anything new. For those that don't know me, Terence Dickson, owner of the Terra Cafe. I'm in the heart of Baltimore City. I have 4 awesome kids, 3 sons and a beautiful daughter. All right. But more so than anything else, I believe in my community. And I know that Black people are beautiful, and I know that we're awesome. So that's what we've been actually pushing for our last 20 years on this corner. In that period of time, we've helped maybe about 25 or 30 small Black businesses or micro Black businesses to the point of success of being able to be open and learning about their financial structure, their business structure, you know, the financial literacy piece. And that's what we're doing right now. We've gotten some great community partners like Baltimore Community Lending, the Hyatt Regency, also BDC and Downtown Partnership, you know, and they've given us the task to help get small Black businesses sized up so that they can qualify for loans, grants, and just have the autonomy of where their business is, where the business is right now for them, and come up with some creative COVID strategy plans for them to actually not just survive, but to thrive. See, Donnie, I told you don't start me off. You know, I'm shy. I don't talk a lot, but I'm gonna work through this. Okay. So what we've done, we started a campaign. And when I went to help these businesses with their financial literacy, I realized that guess what? It wasn't just the businesses, that we needed to put it in the houses. All right. Because guess what? Running a house is a business. Okay. You have to plan for it. And see, we don't really know that in our community. We work off a different type of financial literacy and accounting. We work off that old school, put something on it, because we ain't never got it all. Okay. But now it's time for us to change the narrative. And that's what we're doing. We're showing businesses how to get their business structure together, their EIN, their Dun & Bradstreet, relationships with the bank, you know, the proper definitions of accountants, you know. In our community, a great accountant is somebody who know how to get the best tax back. They get you that tax check back at the end of the year, and they got 5 for 15. Translation, they got them kids. $500 get you $1,500 back on taxes. All right, but in other communities, it's a little different. Definition of an accountant is someone that grows your business, and that's where we're elevating to right now. Terra Loft Consulting, we're changing the narrative. We're going to make the accountants and our business people grow your business. Okay, so we've committed to 100 business days for 100 financial literacy certifications. Okay, we partnered up with a college in California, Santa Clara University. We've created a program with their MOBI system, and this is all free, people. This is all free. You see them all now. I see the SBA, they charging you for information. I see other Other people are charging you for information. This is something that we're doing for our community. This is an agape gift to you, meaning that I'm giving you this gift of financial literacy and the opportunity to own the bricks, and I'm not asking for anything back. You know what I mean? So that's what we're doing. 100 days, 100 certifications. And it's not if you own a business. It's not just if you think about doing a business. It's basically if you're breathing and living today. You know, our kids, you know, I hire a lot of youth here at the cafe, and something kind of shook me about a month or so ago. I was paying for one of my vendors that came in. I'm checking out the invoice, and see, I give our youth access to what they're not going to get at McDonald's. They're not going to get at Ruth Chris. All right. Amazon's not going to let them see how to put the books together and what you need to do. So he was puzzled. He had a puzzling look on his face. He didn't know how to write a check. He's never balanced a check account, a book. And he graduated from a Baltimore City public school. So there's a challenge right there. But one of the things is this: we're not pointing fingers, we're bringing solutions. So we stepped in, and that's what we're looking to do. So we want our youth to get involved too. And even to the point, my whole staff in my restaurant. I hired a young lady last week. And also, hey, Donnie, we're doing a big hiring over here. All right. We got real jobs for real people. Okay. With skill.
Breaking news. By the way, Leon Purnell, cut your camera on. Leon Purnell, cut your camera on. So you have jobs. There we go, Leon. And okay, all right, let's get him in there. Okay, so let me just intervene. Leon, Gary, and Lisa, I promise you're going to get some information today that can better help you or help you better serve your clients. I promise you, in the form of money. Okay, Lisa, you had a question for Terence?
Oh, yeah. Oh, Donnie. Peace, Lisa. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful.
Lisa, did you have a
and we got money too, y'all.
Yeah, so I have a
We
question.
got money too.
What's your question?
Peace, Queen. How are you? Happy Wednesday.
Shout out to Terence. Terence catered a bunch of parties for me when I did parties, and shout out to the macaroni
Awesome.
and so I know Terra Cafe well. My question is, I'm working with a church, and Terence, talk about the pivot that the churches have to make. The advantage that the church has, that there's already a platform of trust. We still, the church is the closest to us as far as accessibility. And so one of the things that I'm sharing with this particular pastor is that churches need to, think like businesses, and, to
I thought you had a question. Is this a question? I thought you had a question. It sounds like a commentary.
Yeah. So the question is, what should churches do to navigate in this new normal, where they're not just relying on what the members do?
Yeah, you know what? One of the things, and you know what? You're going to get somebody driving by here throwing rocks at my place. One of the things that I think the churches really have to do now is they have to really get connected. The time for smoke and mirrors is over. Okay? Being absent in our community and letting things happen to us like they have, there's an accountability that has to be taken by our community and those around us. Okay? Understand, here's the crazy part. There's so many resources out here right now that other people come and harvest from us. All right? Programs for our youth. I haven't heard of, a whole lot of churches getting involved in that. All right? And that's really where our new beginning is. And then also a program for our elders. We got to find something a little bit more than just taking them food. We got to find out how to get them interacted back in and woven into our community, because that really is the difference, because that's where your legacies are created. It's not always that tangible stuff with your fingers, but in reality, it's that thing between our ears. And by disconnecting us from, the youth and our elders, is a problem. I walk different now. Okay. I have the understanding that my elders are saying, what are you doing with what I left you? Okay. And those that are like-minded, like Donnie and myself and you, are asking each other, what are we doing with each other? All right. And then guess what? Here's the most important one of all, our youth. They say, what are you doing? What are you going to leave me? You feel me? We have to change the narrative. We can't keep leaving our youth a broken down Cadillac and a bunch of leisure suits. That's back in the 70s, baby. It's time to change. We have access to something that we've never had before. And that's the conscious knowledge of knowing just how awesome we are in technology. So it's time for us to move this forward.
Let's get to the question. Do you have a plan to do outreach to the churches?
Yes, I want the churches to actually reach out and help with this financial literacy. Guess what? If you help people build businesses, and that's the real big thing. And I'm gonna tell you what, I was looking at some numbers the other day and I got really shocked. I looked at the actual Baltimore City. Baltimore City, we're about 65.3%. And guess what? We only have about maybe 17% of the businesses. I think it was 11% of the businesses. All right. Then I look at other cultures within the city. I looked at the Asian culture. Okay. And I'm not pointing fingers. I'm showing direction. All right. They got about 16 or 17% of the population. But guess how many businesses they have? They got about 19% of the businesses. Isn't that crazy? So that means that some cats out there got not just one business, but two businesses, and we don't have any. And that's kind of crazy. And I thought it was just strange for Baltimore. So I did a little search coast to coast, and that's about the narrative. That a lot of cultures, they know where they're at. And see, that's what I'm talking about in culture. See, that's not something that comes just from a business person. That's a whole community. So where the church can get involved in this is sharing this financial literacy. And it's free. It's free. Everybody's doing virtual churches right now. Terence Dickson, Terra Loft Consulting. Let me help you be great. Also, you know what? One of the things that I've heard so many times before was that, you know, because I went to church, I was the deacon. When I was the deacon, what was I? Steward. I got the march. All right. But I got an opportunity to actually also work with the books and stuff of that nature and see what's going on. And a lot of times in our churches, our kitchens are all messed up. To have that much bread coming up in there and you have no autonomy of where you at and you always broke and Bishop always need a new Cadillac, we have to push through that narrative. You feel me? So it's and like I said, it's a lot of benefits. And please understand, folks, is that nobody's coming to save us, period. Okay. All right. You waiting for the stimulus. Guess what? They had you wait for the stimulus how long? All last year, $2,800. You divide it by 365, you divide it by 24. That means they kept you captive for 32 cents an hour. How valuable are you? Have you decided what is your value? You feel me? So this is where the churches can get involved.
Okay, I got to jump
with financial literacy. Yes.
Okay, let me jump in for a second. Now, Gary, Leon, Karen, Lisa Pierce, I asked you to come on this morning because while Terence is speaking specifically to our businesses, Nicole has some information for a demographic that you deal with specifically. So Nicole is of UB Creations, and Nicole, they all deal with ex-offenders and inmates.
I got it.
Is there any PP? Hold tight, Terence. I'm talking to Nicole. Nicole, what can we do for our inmates, for our ex-offenders?
Well, thank you, Donnie, for having me on. There is definitely something that our inmates can benefit from. The same stimulus checks that Terence was just talking about that we were waiting for so long is available to inmates. A lot of people don't know it, but your loved ones, your friends that are incarcerated, they're able to receive the $1,200, the $600, and the $1,400 stimulus check. It's an easy way to do it. I can give more detail, over a phone call or email. But if you're interested,
what information you want me to put out there for you? ubcreations@gmail.
At Gmail, yes. And also you can reach me at 410-908-8319. And I also
you gotta slow that way down.
okay. 410-908-8319.
Donnie, send that out to us, please.
And
I'm getting ready to put it up now.
while he's putting that up, I just want to say, with the families that I've worked with stimulus for inmates, it has literally changed the inmate's life inside of the prison walls and outside. They're able to do things for their kids, for their families. It gives them, we know that these prisons were put here as a punitive response to crime, but not all inmates are guilty. And if you're not reforming in prison, then what are you really doing? So this actually helps that inmate to have some self-worth and to feel like they're actually contributing to their family. And also they feel that they are self-sufficient. So they're not asking their family or burdening their family for money. Now, inmates typically work for cents an hour in prison. So I think this stimulus, I know that this stimulus for them is actually life-changing.
Anybody got any questions? I just wanted you to get this information. Karen, did you know that inmates can get a check?
I did. And, while super excited, because usually this is a population that tends to be left out of the equation when we're talking about these resources. One of the things that we're now focused on is how do we ensure that, government and others don't step in and try to garnish, any of those monies, because a lot of times whenever inmates, get access to funds, it's an easy opportunity to try to come in and garnish any type of funds, especially if it's like government funding for things like what they call state owed debt, which is child support, back child support, or they may try to garnish it for things like restitution. Same things that they do with your, monies that, you may have for commissary and the like. And it's, to Nicole's point, like this could be life-changing so that individuals don't necessarily have to rely on their family members who many times their networks of support, they ain't got it either. They struggling to get their own stimulus monies. And so how do we make sure that, while our government partners are so excited that, and eager to brag about the fact that we are paying attention to this population, how do we make sure that they're not doing anything behind the scenes where, our incarcerated brothers and sisters don't get, the full amount?
I was
Karen,
under the impression.
I'm sorry, Karen, to your point, there are ways that we can ensure that that doesn't happen. And I mean, it's a conversation for offline. So please reach out to me, any of you, and I can shed some light on how families can go about doing that without that repercussion of a garnishment.
Okay, yeah.
I just want to say,
Donnie, let me ask this real quick. The last stimulus was the only one where there was no opportunities for them to garnish it. Is that correct?
That I'm not.
They didn't even get it in the last round.
Well,
I'm sorry. They did get it in the last round.
Yeah.
I have people that I'm working with that has actually received their $1,400.
Really?
And Biden made it a stiff stipulation that they not be able to garnish this, not just for the inmates, but for anybody this time around, because he wanted the money to get back to the people.
Because none of our folks are like getting it. Like hearing that there's barrier after barrier in terms of whether it's bureaucratic barriers, whether it's practical logistical barriers. So yeah, I would love to talk to you offline because none of our folks, have access to it.
Well, Gary, I don't want
to talk to you.
Gary, come on in. Unmute yourself.
No, I just wanted to ask, so is this more of a paperwork thing with the inmates or people that might have just came home, or Is it you know, finding the right person to help them get the stimulus checks? Well, the last 3 stimulus checks.
Well, if you just come home, like I said, I can speak to it better offline, but it's a very simple process. And when I go through this process with individuals, they're like, "Oh my goodness, that's all." So it's something that's very obtainable. One thing that may be a barrier is not having an ID, but we've gotten around that as well. So
That's that was one of the things that I absolutely wanted to make sure that we were talking about on here, because that is a problem. Okay. Now, we have passed laws in the past, okay, like years ago, where the state is required to ensure that 60 days before your release, inmates are connected with the NBA and all of these partners so that they can be issued a state issued photo ID. That is not happening. What we're hearing from the state is that, individuals either don't want to go out to the van that they have out there, and so they're like, we can't force them. And so, I mean, that is just what they're telling us, right? And so individuals are being released without IDs. And I'll never forget hearing from then Commissioner Kevin Davis. He comes up to me at a meeting one day and he's like, we've got to do something about ensuring, folks that are coming home have IDs, because if we stop them on the streets and they can't produce IDs, then we have to arrest them. I was like, so actually you don't. That's not a law. That's not a thing. That's just like a practice that y'all, made up. But I mean, it's just having an ID, I think, is something that we take for granted. And many times individuals that are, being released from incarceration, some of the first stops that they have to make is to these, state buildings. I mean, it's COVID now, so that interaction isn't there. But many times you have to have ID to even enter into these buildings. You have to have ID in order to even register for whatever program the state has required you to register and participate in as a condition of your release. So it's the process of getting the ID. It's the cost associated with getting the ID. And let's not forget, the ID also comes with needing your vital documents. I don't know where my birth certificate is. So just imagine, you coming home, whether it's a couple years or a couple months, and you're expected to come up with, social security card and birth certificate in order to be able to get that ID, plus whatever fees that come with it. You're like, I ain't gonna be able to do it.
Well, the biggest challenge was trying to stop them from destroying people's IDs.
Yeah.
Because when they get incarcerated, when they get booked, they take their IDs and shred them.
Jail ID, yeah. So folks are like trying to think about it. You're trying to apply for a job with a jail ID. Employers, if you are not an employer that's from community and understands, like I'm sure somebody like Terence, right, is going to be that type of employer that if you're somebody who's a qualified individual, and I've worked with Terence on a number of different, like committees and the like, and Terence is that one employer, the type of employer who we should be supporting, okay? Because this is someone where if an individual comes to him like, I need a job, but I got a jail ID, Terence is gonna at least have the wherewithal to be able to, say like, okay, so first step, like this is not something that you should apply for. So let's figure out how to address this piece while also figuring out how to get you, into some of these spaces of training and employment and the like. But, Mr. Leon, to your point, like folks, the only ID that they got is this jail ID. And that in and of itself comes with a stigma.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I know. I'm fully aware of it, but we've been able to work with that as well. We get people in the door, and that's the hardest part, getting them in the door.
Yeah.
And something
we used to pay for a lot of the IDs, but people started abusing that system, and the funds ran out, so we didn't go after it anymore because we really didn't have the time to be going through those changes. But the ID is a major issue. It's been one for a long time. They can use the city's office up in Mondawmin is where I send a lot of people. Under Armour down on Fayette Street, they still do IDs on a regular basis. And that's been really good because they got the money to pay for it and, make sure that they get it.
And so,
any more questions from our ex-offender services community?
Can we actually say
Nicole,
individuals with a criminal record, because we don't like the term ex-offender, right?
Well,
Like we say individuals with a criminal record, Mr.
Can I
Donnie.
answer your question? Can I answer your question?
Returning citizens, Donnie.
Can I answer your question? I've been covering people locked up for the past 25 years. And just like today, you got diversity and inclusion. You know what we talking about. People locked up. You know, I'm not the politician you trying to sway. I'm trying to help the brothers behind the walls. Whatever the term du jour is, the cat's over the jail, okay?
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. I hear you.
So
Can
Nicole,
I do want to.
The term changes, kind of like Negro, colored, African American, black. The brothers locked up.
And the sisters.
That's right.
And the sisters, the fastest growing demographic. We
Now,
talk about ex-offenders and people
trying to get me worked up this
all
morning.
day long. We are 5% of the world's population, but we got 25% of the world's inmates. 34% of them are black men. Black women are the fastest growing demographic. And we have been adamant about covering that, Karen, for the past 25 years. I assure you.
I know. You know, I know. You don't have to convince me. You know, I know.
Okay, well, I just wanted y'all to get Nicole's information. And Terence, before I get cut, you better let Terence say something, because you know how he get. Terence, they gave you see, you know the boy got ADD. Lisa, you thought you got it? You ain't got what he got.
I'm special. That's what my mama say. Don't talk about me. I'm special.
Special.
Yeah.
Terence gave you mad props for helping people. What's the term again?
Individuals with a criminal background. Mm-hmm. Or he's not like, I was giving him a shout out, not just for that population, but just recognizing what our folks have to go through in terms of, you know, getting into employment in the business. And he's one of those employers that's willing to, you know, not only work with folks, but educate his other counterparts on what the issues are.
Exactly. But you know what? That's the purpose of business. One of the things I think that, you know, we really got desensitized from the learned nature of seeing how other people come in our communities and do business, and they take and they don't leave. You know, like I said, is that, you know, when I opened this Terra Cafe, 11 years, 4 months, 27 days, 10 hours and 30 minutes. I'm not counting. But, you know, after day one, I realized that it wasn't for me. I originally built it for my kids because I wanted them to have a nice restaurant that had Black culture, that had the music, had the food, had the pictures. You know what I mean? I wanted to be able to celebrate us, our greatness. And, you know, I realized it was for the community, and I had to look at our community. And the numbers speak for themselves, you know, and the system speaks for itself. So if I can't understand, who will?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who will?
Yeah.
But thank you so much for sharing awesome energy to me. Thank you.
Yeah. Love Brother Terence.
Yeah.
I do want to just some in relation to formerly incarcerated and incarcerated pretrial population, some new news that just came down that folks should know about. So we're all familiar with how many times in pretrial judges will release individuals to home detention. And then they're required to pay these home detention fees. And if they can't afford the fees, that's considered a violation of their release. So then they're incarcerated because they can't meet the demands of the release conditions. We were able to just pass a law this past session where if you can't afford these private monitoring fees, then the state can't require you to pay them. Actually, the state will then pay your monitoring fees. So this is when you release on pretrial, you got the box around your ankle and you can't afford, you know, $20 a day plus $250 to set it up, plus $100 for your urinalysis and all of these other fees. If you can't pay that, they send you to jail. So instead of that, if you can't pay it, the state will cover those costs. And we were able to get the feds use about $5 million of federal dollars to ensure that we weren't just locking folks up because they couldn't afford GPS monitoring fees. So please make sure that folks know, anyone who's been released on GPS monitoring and they're worried that they can't, you know, come up with the monies for these private companies, the law states that they don't have to pay. Where'd Donnie go?
Good morning. I wanted to share something also while we're talking about those that are returning to us, our family that was locked up, is that I have a program also that would definitely benefit. Through Baltimore Community Lending, we have what's referred to as an R3 program. And it's basically the same thing. Once you do this financial literacy, and this is only it's a 20-hour course. It's something you could do on your phone or your laptop. You complete this, it just talks about the structure of business. Once you do this, and then you actually you meet with us, we put together your business, your strategy, we can get you up to $50,000. That means you come home and you got a great idea, all right? Because that's why we normally go back, because of those two bad habits, eating and sleeping inside. You know what I mean? So we can help folks that are coming home actually solve that problem. And not just to eat, but I mean really to thrive and start businesses. You know what I mean? So that's something that we can do. And whether or not you just got released or you got released 10, 20, 30 years ago, reach out, terraloftconsulting.com. All right. And let us help you. Let us help. Hey, learn to walk, learn to move different. You know, once you actually link up with us, you're going to move different. You're going to be confident in where you go and how you go and what's in your future.
Okay. Let me just give people a chance to put in a plug. Lisa, you want to tell them what you do for those who may not know who are watching?
So I run a workforce training program that also includes reentry at the University of Baltimore. 25 years ago, I was in reentry, and it's a very dear passion of mine. And I only want to say that one of the things that I focus on is I really engage businesses to help. You know, people get rich off of us, and company corporations. And so what I do is I engage them to really do more for workers in terms of support systems. So I'm working now with Federal Express, to do something special for youth. We're about to see who's graduating and who's not graduating. But something like that could damage somebody's confidence for a long time. And a lot of decisions are made based on where your confidence and self-esteem is. So I really push for corporations to really play a bigger role in helping people to show up for work every day. And so one of the things I love is what the University of Maryland Medical Center did. So
what did they do?
They had, so all the vendors that get contracts with them, from food service, parking, transportation, they set up an emergency fund for employees, for rental assistance, utilities, because you have to, the only thing that goes up in this country is the cost of living. And so wages are lagging. And so you're asking people to do more with less. And so, I really push for companies. Every corporation has a social impact clause where they are required, to do more to positively, impact the community. And so, they're realizing that, they have to do more than just donate a turkey for Thanksgiving. You really have to support your workers economically to help them to perform better.
Miss Lisa, I would love to. I know we've been trying to connect for a long time, and that's probably on me. So don't already don't yell at me in front of people.
So can y'all put
company. In front of company.
Can you put the contact information in the comments section, or
sure
can you say it now so we can put it up?
Putting it right now. But I wanted to just piggyback on something that you mentioned, because we tend to operate a lot in the construction space. Mm-hmm. And we find that in addition to making sure that there's like these social impact agreements, we are also trying to figure out how we can make sure that we are providing opportunities for Black businesses to be prioritized as well. So I'm in the space right now where, you know, there are a lot of businesses, white-led businesses and the like, that it would look great to be able to partner with an organization like mine, right? And to show that, like, oh, we really understand community, we really get it. Just being able to say that that partnership exists might allow them extra points on a contract, right? Without actually having to give back to community, without your business actually being one that is centered and anchored in community. And so we're, you know, also, and I would love to talk more with you about like how we can, as we are in these spaces, be able to elevate, you know, even though Terra isn't in the construction space, like what does it look like, you know, to possibly have Terra as one of the, you know, leading kind of like train the trainers, right? Where you are, where they are being supported financially, you know, in that space, but, you know, also supported with his own business and the restaurant, you know, with the fact that you're trying to help over here and your restaurant is an anchor in the community. Like those are the kind of approaches that, you know, we should be taking instead of these real transactional kind of just we do it, you know, we say that we are partners. And
that's a great.
So let me just intervene there, Lisa. Senator Corey McCray might be one of the elected officials. Senator Antonio Hayes might be one of the elected officials.
None of those are folks we work with, and Hayes is my senator. So we'll talk about who are the best ones to work on that too.
Can I finish my statement?
If we a lot of times like we'll throw out politicians' names, and many times they're not the ones that really doing the work.
My statement.
I didn't even finish. Look at you, starting trouble. You starting trouble.
This is what Donnie does to you.
No, Senator McCray has been in prison. And if anybody understands that transition,
Corey the truth.
I know he does.
I'm not denying his experience in prison. I'm speaking to the work being done now. That's all I was saying.
Yeah, but he doesn't do his work.
I've worked with Senator McCray and Senator Hayes, and both of them are mindful of life on the streets for a Black man, for a Black woman coming out of prison. I'm clear about that. So maybe one of them might be able to help you facilitate these relationships. Maybe not, but
so you is how we have to think outside the box. And so how I get partnership with companies is that I look within the company. And so my partnership with FedEx Freight actually took shape back in 2018 when I met an operations supervisor. But when I met with him, I could see that his whole focus was to capture hearts and minds and get people in the organization to see that, look, we are overlooking a great demographic that can help us. And so what I did was I followed his career. He got promoted and to be a managing director of the organization. Now he can impact the hiring managers. Now he can actually pull out the social impact clause that says that we need to do this. And so that's how I did it creatively, because government can't fix it. Government can't fix it all. Government need private entities and the private sector to support what they're trying to do. And so, just, and if I could put this out there, Donnie, if I could put this out there, that if anyone knows the young man that they're talking about with the school system, if they could please.
Who are you talking about, Lisa?
The young man that had a really low GPA. He's 22 now. And so instead of pointing fingers, let's get proactive and let's help that family. Not just him. Let's find out what the mom needs, because there's no way, a mother would willfully, put her child in that kind of situation. And so, if anyone knows that family, if they could reach out to me, because
can I just say this?
Uh-huh.
There are thousands of him in Baltimore, apparently.
And that's why a company like FedEx got big enough shoulders to shoulder that.
Well,
And
I actually have a lot more faith in God and y'all than I do any of these corporations trying to get brownie points during COVID. But if you say so, I'm looking up to God. I ain't giving these corporations no pass.
What you're saying, but what I'm saying,
and I don't do PR for them because they ain't sent me no check. I just checked my bank account. So unless you're getting a check, send me mine.
I have a
okay. Let me just come on, Nicole.
For Karen.
And Karen started all of this. It's her fault.
Okay, yes, Ms. Nicole.
Yeah. So my question is, I hear you guys talking about a lot of different programs for reentry. Is there any programs that will follow someone while they're incarcerated, and that will help them kind of build up to their release so they're not just thrown out there, and be like a bridge program?
Yeah, so there are actually a couple. I can speak to, two specific, just that I work closely with, and I'm sure Miss Lisa has, like a ton, of examples. Everyone's like doing it now, but everybody shouldn't be doing it. But there are two groups that I'm familiar with. So of course, the one that I lead, Job Opportunities Task Force, we tend to, get the calls and the letters from folks that are behind the fence, or many times from CEOs that are like, look, individuals are going to be released like within the next year or something. What are the things that they can, start to do both behind the fence and in preparation for their release. And we tend to focus very, of course, heavy on what do we need to do to make sure that you can at least obtain some type of employment upon your release. And so this is, any type of educational credentialing we need to, get you aligned with behind the fence. So we just passed a law that would allow for, and this was, you would thought that we were just trying to open all the jails. All we were saying was individuals who are incarcerated should get an additional 60-day credit for actually completing an educational or an occupational program. That means that you actually get to be released with either a high school diploma or a college degree, or like some type of like training certificate or something. That's going to be super helpful for when you are released and trying to secure employment. The other organization that we partner with very heavily, and I'm actually the board president, and the leader is actually one of my best friends, is Out for Justice. This is an organization, formerly incarcerated individuals who advocate, formerly and incarcerated individuals, family members and friends, advocating on behalf of those who are behind the fence and those who are coming home. So
What's your best friend's name?
I'm sorry, huh?
What's your best friend's name?
Oh, I'm sorry, Nicole Hanson Mundell.
We called her for this show today, but she was unavailable.
I know, and I'm actually gonna have to. I love you all so much. I jumped off my staff meeting. They're probably like, "Where is the leader?" But I wanted to, because this is an important conversation, and I know that Donnie will convene and discuss in a way that's raw and real. So I appreciate the invitation.
One question before you go.
Yes, sir.
So, for the past 7 years, have things gotten better for incarcerated individuals or worse? And particularly when it comes to reading, books, education, libraries, job training. What's your assessment? And then I got a follow-up.
Yeah, so it's in very small baby steps. It's getting a little bit better as there's more understanding around what needs to happen behind the fence to prepare folks coming home. Because I think now folks are starting to recognize, if you were not sentenced to life, you're coming home. It doesn't matter how long you were sentenced, right? And so that's about like 98%, of our prison population. They coming home at some point. And so it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we're preparing them for proper reentry. So, we've had situations where, I don't know if you all remember, like the state tried to come in and restrict the kinds of books and, things like that, inmates could receive, and we were able to push back against that. But you're starting to see more in terms of tablets behind the fence. They increased the this past session, they increased the hours that, you know, folks can have access to for education and employment and the like. So it's incrementally getting better, but I wouldn't say they're better off, right? It's just, you know, there's starting to be some recognition.
Here's the follow-up. We will need to hear from you, as next year is a gubernatorial election. We want to make sure that the things you need, we put them before the candidates who are running. Because if they're not speaking to what you need, then we don't need them as our governor.
I hear you. I hear you. You know, I just, these elections, I tell you, they just, all the buzzwords, all of a sudden, you know, they care about the incarcerated population. They care about reentry. So you're right.
But ride it while you got it. You've worked hard for years going back. I mean, I remember we were at a meeting at a Darker Than Blue Cafe.
Ah, look at you.
Who was that? Doug Ganslow over there?
Yeah, running for governor.
But the issue is the same. And as you know, we fill up the prison. So what you do, what Lisa does, and now that you have a Nicole, you know, whatever we can do to keep pushing this envelope. You
Another
think I'm
Nicole. I like Nicole's.
Let me make sure I put a number up there one more time. Lisa, you didn't put your information up. You put it in the private chat.
Oh, put it in the chat. Okay.
Y'all, I have to leave. I got to go to my staff meeting.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen. We love
Lisa,
you.
I'm on you. I'm on you.
So, Miss Karen, please, I would love to have a chalk talk.
Talk. I love it. Absolutely. And Miss Nicole, I'll be reaching out to you too. Donnie, I love you. Thank you, dear.
Love you back, sis. Love you.
Bye.
Thank you. So, Nicole, go ahead and do a plug for yourself. What do you think, Nicole? What do you think of today's show? Terrence didn't even get to hear the good part.
I thought today's show.
You partnered with, I'm sorry.
I was just saying, I think today's show was very informative. It spoke to situations that a lot of people are dealing with, whether they share it or not. And I think, you know, dealing with individuals that were formerly incarcerated or they are currently incarcerated is a huge deal because, like Karen said, they're going to be back in our communities, and it would be, you know, if we're thinking smart and thinking wisely, we need to get them prepared. We would rather have active members of our community, positive members of our community, instead of someone that's coming out with no direction. So I really take my hat off to Lisa and to Karen.
What does the check mean for an inmate again, Nicole? I want you to, you know, talk about that again, because you said some things that really touched my soul.
Okay. So
what happens to a cat with $1,200-$1,800 he can contribute?
Let me tell you, okay, this is a story. This is a true story. And sometimes people can grasp things better when it's, you know, when you're talking about real people. So one of the families that I'm working with, their son got the money, and he was able to order gifts for all the women in his life that has been there for him all of these years. And, you know, it just did something. It changed him.
What do you mean?
It was just like a sense of pride that he was able to send his mother, his grandmother, his auntie, you know, happy Mother's Day bouquet, you know. So those are the type of things. It gave him hope to keep pushing forward. It gave him the courage to even dream again. Like something is possible. You know, with the population that doesn't receive little to anything, getting $1,400 or, you know, $1,800, it is huge. We have to understand that these people that are incarcerated, the prison system itself gets billions of dollars a year. But what the inmates get, the food I'm not even going to talk about that because I'm not even sure you can call it food. But you know what they receive, they depend on their commissary just for nourishment. And so, especially with this COVID situation, our inmates have been suffering terribly. And instead of, they're close quarters. So if you're social distancing, you're locking inmates in for 23 hours a day. And what does that do to their psyche? What does that do to their spirit? So this is like the light for them at the end of the tunnel. Like they've gone through this COVID thing for the last year, and it has been very hard on that population, the population that's currently incarcerated. So, that's a glimmer of hope for them to receive that money.
And so, Donnie, when you asked if things are getting better or worse for returning citizens, it's getting worse for them on the inside. And the reason is because about 10 years ago, people always knew that sending people to prison is a revenue generating activity. And so, but what happened 10 years ago is that a new pool of people entered the correction space as far as investing. So now you have
private prisons. They've
right.
made more of a business of making money off of us.
Yeah, but not only that, but the services that prisons receive. So a phone call used to be 35 cents. Now a phone call is about $3 because now there's a hedge fund company owned by Mitt Romney that's one of the companies that's in his portfolio. And so they've had home detention for a while. The reason why you got to pay to be on home detention now, as much as I love Jay-Z, Jay-Z is an investor in the home detention, the ankle monitor. So the people they become investors to make money. And so they put that burden on the back of inmates. And so
let me just fix something to that, Lisa. We had a guy on the show Saturday night live from Howard County, and they talked about how it's expensive to have your freedom, and the easy option is just to do your time. But I wanted to pose this to you. We spoke specifically with an inmate in Howard County Detention Center who said that he's been on pretrial for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to the speedy trial?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know?
Well, you have to take a deep dive into the legislator, so it's one thing.
You give me the roundabout answer. Why can't you get a speedy trial?
What I'm saying is when things like that change, you have to look at where the law changed. Because
what is speedy?
Speedy trial
3 years ain't.
that's the law. And so when the law changed, you got to look legislatively at what happened.
I'm gonna tell you what happened. Great question. Bail reform. They got rid of bail reform, and so now you either get let out or they hold you. That's what we warned them about when they got rid of bail. But no, all of these Democrats, no, we want bail reform. We want bail reform. Look who's suffering the most, us, no matter what they do, because we star in that prison system. 3 years. And so you know what happens, Nicole? You haven't even been to court yet. You've been locked up 3 years. And then one day somebody comes by your cell and say, if you take this plea, go ahead and do your time and get out. So we got people copping the pleas who might have been innocent, but they just tarred. They tarred.
Right.
It's a wicked system. And I pray all of those devils that make money off our people, I pray they get to experience the very same thing. Just like drug dealers. Nicole, they talk about my German Shepherd, people that don't know him. Oh, he big. I can't believe he got that big dub. But you don't walk past 30 dudes standing on your corner selling powder cocaine, heroin, and crack. Terrorists. And then when they get shot up or locked up, oh, my baby, my baby. Your baby was a damn terrorist to the black community selling poison. One last thing. Why do we wait till we get locked up to start going to school, Lisa?
Well, because you're sitting still.
It was rhetorical.
Yeah, no, I know.
It was rhetorical. And what I really want to say is, let's just go to school now while we're free.
Mm-hmm.
Why wait till we get locked up? Stop selling dope. Stop making excuses for selling dope.
Mm-hmm.
I done heard a lot of bullshit experiences. I don't even cuss on this show.
Mm-hmm.
I done heard a lot of bullshit experiences and excuses about why people sell dope.
Mm-hmm.
You selling poison to your own people.
Well, Donnie,
You're terrorists.
One thing that I would like to add, you said, why don't we go to school when we have a chance? We need in each community, we need someone to educate teenagers about the possibility of going to school, how it is obtainable, because we have generations of people that aren't educated.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to snatch those kids at 13 and at 14 and to show them that it is possible. There is another way to live. Education can get you from here to here where you want to be.
But
But it's hard for a 30-year-old grandmother to. It's hard for a 30-year-old grandmother to explain that, because you got
exactly. That's why it's going to take.
Well, you got to snatch her.
Right.
You got to snatch her because she's the closest to the 13-year-old. So I always tell my students, you can't take your children where you've never been.
Haven't been. Right.
So you got to get there.
Right.
And you can't rely on the school system to do it. You can't rely on that. You are the closest to your child.
Right.
And then the motivation to become teachers is different now. So you can't even rely on the caliber of teacher anymore.
Right. And one of the things that hold people back a lot, like when Donnie was talking about a 30-year-old grandmother, the parents of these teenagers now, they're held by fear. Fear is the biggest obstacle that someone has to get over. And, I think, I'm a visual person. So if I see something, it's more tangible. Mm-hmm. If I see someone else doing it, okay, well, I can do this and I can even do it better. So I think we need to put those images out there in the community. And like you said, grab the parent, let them know that it is still possible. Okay, you didn't finish high school. Okay, let's do it this way. A lot of families don't even know
something to completion.
Right. A lot of people don't even know that going to a community college, if you finish 18 credits, you already have your high school diploma. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people don't know that, that you don't necessarily have to finish high school if you have a certain level of reading and things like that, the fundamentals. You can go apply for community college, do your 18 credits, and that's the equivalent to your high school diploma. And you just continue on and get your degree or transfer and get a 4-year degree.
Mm-hmm. And let me tell you another BS excuse people are using. Not everybody is made for college. Well, if our public schools are failing people, then clearly you need to go to college to get what you missed in the 12 years that you were jiving in public school. Why? Because you need to know how to write. They done took cursive handwriting out of school curriculum. And you need to know how to count. And I don't know where else you learn how to read and write and count besides your mother, except in school. Mm-hmm. So I'm sick of the excuses. And if a cat can ride up Pennsylvania Avenue with one hand and the other hand up in the air on a dirt bike in the middle of traffic, I know damn well he can sit his hind parts down for 3 hours and learn some English and some math. Stop the excuses. Our ancestors came out of slavery, dying for the right to read, dying to learn how to read and write. Where did this low 60 is passing? Ladies, we out of time for the day. Go ahead and make your final thoughts before I get too worked up.
Well, anybody that's out there, you're even thinking about doing something different, Google, pick up the phone. There's something for you. There's something for you. There's no reason for anybody to be on a corner. You know, I place students that been in prison for murder and they got good jobs. You know, so it's no excuse. There's no reason not to be a productive citizen. There's no excuse not to.
And then who want to be locked up? Who wants somebody telling them when to get up and get down? When to go, when to come? We don't treasure our freedom. Lisa, I was sharing the other night, our cats brag about, yeah, boy, you don't know nothing about doing no bit. You don't, no, I don't. And don't want to know. Ever, ever, ever.
Problem to have.
With that sign over City Jail say, never again. Nicole, your final thoughts.
So first of all, I just want to thank all the guests that was on the show. It's been an amazing show. I would just encourage everyone out there with a family member, a loved one, a friend, incarcerated, just reach out to me at myubcreations@gmail.com or call me 410-908-8319 and let's help your loved one that's incarcerated. It will change their life.
And she just partnered with a major CPA firm. So we're real proud of you, Nicole. Thank you for all that you do. Lisa Pierce,
thank you for your show. I mean, thank you for your support, Donnie. I really appreciate it.
YouTheBomb.com. We'll be back 7 p.m. tonight with Sister Biz. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Nicole. Have a powerful day in the Lord.
Thank you. You too.